For most of my life, I did what everyone else was doing, studying hard, getting a degree, aiming for a stable job, and planning to work my way up. Just what you're supposed to do, right? But at some point, something shifted. I started to wonder, why do we measure our worth by how much we work? Why do we need to prove we are having fun by posting it online? Why do we need to go into debt for a degree just to prove that we are educated? What if I just stopped playing along, stopped chasing what I was told I needed? And the second I started asking these questions, I realized that there was no going back. So this video is about what I realized, why I stopped living like everyone else, and what actually happens when you stop living by everyone's expectations. Part 1. The life we are told to live. Most people don't actively choose their life. They just follow the path that's already mapped out for them. And without even realizing it, we start believing that if we just follow these steps, we'll end up happy. Expectations we don't even question. More work equals more value. We believe that working hard is everything. If you want to be valuable, you have to be productive. If you want to enjoy life, you have to earn it first. That's why people work over time, sacrifice their free time, and push through burnout, because stopping feels like a failure. I didn't want to feel that, and I don't think anyone does, but we feel like there's always another level to reach, like get a degree, get a job, get the promotion, buy the house, save for a retirement, and only then, after years of grinding, you are allowed to slow down and enjoy life. But I've been thinking about, at that point, do you even know how to slow down and enjoy life and not just keep grinding? I totally understand that sometimes you are in a position where you just have to keep your head down, stop thinking and get it done. But so many people don't have to live like that 24/7 anymore. Our world, society and culture loves to glorify the grind, but no one ever tells you how much is enough of that grind. How many hours do you need to work before you are finally worthy? Or when exactly do you get to stop proving yourself? Constant participation. And I don't feel it's just work. Even outside of it, there's an invisible set of rules telling us what a normal life looks like. You're supposed to go out, have a big social life, be seen, and especially be fun. Nobody ever says that you have to do these things, but if you don't, people start to notice, asking you why don't you drink? Which, being 21 in Finland, was basically unheard of. Why do you have to be so quiet all the time? Why did you stop posting on Instagram? It is very subtle, but the pressure is there. I think the weirdest part is that a lot of people don't even enjoy it. They go out because they feel like they should. They post because everyone else does, or at least that is what I was doing. It's less about actually living and more about proving that you are. Like when people take pictures of sunsets, you see it all the time probably as well. It's a beautiful moment, and sure, maybe they want to snap a photo to remember that moment, but how often do they actually go back and look at those photos? I think about this a lot when I see these moments. So many moments end up being more about proving that they happened than truly experiencing them. I know this might sound a little bit ironic coming from a content creator, but I will get to that later in the video. The outrage economy. Social media, news, and the digital world, I think in general, profit from making us angry. The most extreme opinions always get the most attention. And I feel like it's not enough to stay informed these days anymore. You are expected to react, to judge, to take a stance. If you don't have an opinion on something, you must be uninformed or, I don't know, weird in some way. If you are not picking a side, you are weak, as things were always so black and white. But how often do we actually stop and think about what we believe? How many of our opinions are just echoes of the last thing we saw online? We hear something once from somebody super confident and charismatic, and suddenly it feels like the truth. One tweet, one viral video, and people already have picked their side without ever questioning if they even know the full story. And before we research it more, we have already moved on to the next outrage, the next debate, the next thing to be mad about. We assume that we are thinking for ourselves, but are we really? Or are we just repeating what we have been told? And just to clarify here, I'm not trying to give some crazy extreme opinion, anti-government conspiracy theory here, just explaining my own thoughts and views here. The endless fix-it mentality. I thought stepping away from the traditional path would make me free, but instead I fell into another trap, self-improvement culture. At first it seems like a really good thing. You don't want to be stuck in a meaningless career. Great, learn new skills and change that. You want more control over your life, wake up earlier and plan your day. You want to grow, set goals, build habits and reach them. I have to say this helped me massively in my early 20s, but at some point self-improvement stops being about making life better and starts feeling like another race, especially as a young man. There's always something to improve, something to fix, even if nothing was really broken in the first place. And if you ever forget that, social media is there to remind you. I feel like some of these posts are doing just more harm than good. Like, once a boy turns into a man, all he wants is money, family, and a private life, nothing else. I don't think it's so black and white. I think there are a lot of things that people want. I don't need a girlfriend. I need money. I need a room full of mirrors so I can be surrounded by winners. I don't think Ronaldo said this quote, probably not. Or then, don't be too sweet, she will eat you. Basically telling that you shouldn't be kind or emotional or whatever. While I was finding these to screenshot for this video, I found some good ones. Like, I do get the point of some of these and I think some of them are helpful, yes, but ultimately are these like actually helping you to improve your life and feel better, or just making you feel like you are always lacking something or that you should follow one certain path in life? Part 2, when normal stopped making sense. For most of my life, I didn't realize I could choose. It wasn't that anyone forced me to follow these expectations or these things that I have mentioned in this video. It just never occurred to me that there was another way. But eventually, cracks started to appear. I saw people who worked their whole lives only to regret not slowing down sooner. I saw people who had everything they ever wanted but still felt empty. And I have to say, not necessarily personally, but kind of hearing people's life stories and watching like some documentaries and stuff like that. And I realized that doing everything right doesn't guarantee happiness. And growing up here in Finland, the contrast, of course, wasn't that extreme as in many other countries. It's more socially acceptable to live simply, to take time for yourself if you need to, and to not buy into like everything. And maybe that was actually one of the reasons why I was able to start questioning these things little by little. I started looking ahead and seeing the entire structure of my life mapped out in front of me. 4 years in university, decades of work just to make ends meet, a few vacations here and there before retirement. And then eventually, that was it. And my only thought was, is this really it? Is this everything? And that's when I started researching alternative ways to live. I found people who had rejected this script entirely. People traveling the world with almost no money. People starting businesses instead of going to college. People growing their own food and making their own clothes. The more I looked, the more I felt inspired to do something similar. And I realized something. There's no single right way to live. I had spent years believing in one version of success, one way to structure life. But that wasn't reality. It was just what I had always believed. The shift started happening internally. Instead of asking, what should I do? I started asking, what actually makes sense for me? Instead of chasing goals because they looked super impressive, I started questioning if they even mattered to me. Part 3, choosing a life that feels right. You might think I had it all figured out, that I was ready to take a leap with complete confidence, but that wasn't the case. I didn't have all the answers and I definitely didn't have a clear plan. The only thing I knew was that if the standard path leads to stress, depression, burnout, and regret, then what do you really have to lose by choosing something completely different? Self-education over formal degrees. One of the first things I questioned was the idea that success and happy, meaningful life required a degree. I had always assumed that higher education was just the next step, but when I really thought about it, I couldn't justify for myself that I would be spending years studying something I didn't really care about for a degree that might not even matter in my case. So many people end up in different fields anyway after graduating. I'm not sure if my parents fully agreed with that choice at the time, but it felt right for me. I have always struggled with the formal way of studying, or at least when I was a teenager, I really started to struggle with that. And even now, I still have nightmares sometimes about school and exams, even though I haven't had one in almost a decade. I never had a problem with authority like teachers or rules. What frustrated me was doing things that felt completely pointless. You study, you memorize, you pass the test, and then you forget. Once I realized the difference between studying and learning, at least for myself, everything changed. I used to hate reading, and now I do it almost every day, not because I have to, but because I get to choose books and topics that actually interest me. Sure, you could argue that school offers some choice too, and I think it does, but there's all these mandatory essays, assignments, and deadlines, and let's be honest, if you truly had the freedom to choose, there are plenty of topics you would skip entirely. Intuition and doing what feels right. When my contract at my minimum wage job ended, I made a decision that I would leave and move abroad. Not for work, not for school, but to learn more about life and myself. That decision, like many after it, wasn't made with a lot of logic or careful planning. It was just intuition and actually happened quite quickly. Now in hindsight, I think it was a very good thing that it happened so quickly, because otherwise I may have talked myself out of it. And I didn't know exactly why, but I felt like there was something I was supposed to do, and I just followed that feeling. For the first time, I stopped making decisions based on what was expected and started trusting myself and this feeling that I had instead. And no, it wasn't so easy and obvious. There's always this urge to justify every decision to others to make sure that it makes sense and sounds good to them as well. But the more I leaned into this intuition, the more I realized that not everything needs an explanation. Sometimes you just know. Career and work, redefining worth. While I was abroad, I started making videos, which was actually something that I had liked doing since I was a kid. And without realizing it, I was reconnecting with the passion I had pushed aside for years. If I had chosen my career based on money, I probably would have done something else. Or if it was about the video thing, maybe become a video editor for commercials or something. But instead, I followed what felt right and created this YouTube channel 4+ years ago, even if it wasn't the most impressive or financially best choice. The first 2 years, basically nobody watched me, and telling my friends and family that I make YouTube videos for a living still sounds a bit weird to me, but it makes more sense than any traditional job I have ever had. It's not about escaping work, it's about making my work mean something. And sure, there are trade-offs. I don't have a stable salary, a clear roadmap, or set work tasks. My worth isn't tied to how many hours I work, because for many this isn't considered a real job in the first place, but instead of that, there's the risk of anxiety and some other like these feelings from trying to keep the views up and dealing with rude comments, both of which require a whole different skill set to stay grounded. Prioritizing mental and physical health. I guess more than anything, mental well-being has been my biggest priority in adulthood. I have given myself more time, space to breathe. I have let go of things that are seen as normal but maybe shouldn't be, like drinking alcohol every week, shopping stuff, and always trying to act fine or strong. I never had an interest in becoming the best or extraordinary at one specific thing, or basically anything. For example, I didn't feel the need to become a pro athlete just because both of my parents were. Instead, I focused on balance, mentally, physically, socially, financially, spiritually, and I believe physical health goes hand in hand with mental health. I still stay active, of course, but I have let go of the idea that fitness is about looking a certain way. I feel like movement should be about function and well-being, health, not aesthetics or ego. When I was following this self-improvement culture and all that, it was very easy for an exercise or working out to become another competition. Cutting out the noise. the more I stepped away from the traditional path, the more I started seeing things objectively. I realized that there is no single truth. I stopped feeling like I needed an opinion on everything, like politics, people, religion, or the right way to live. Even in this video, I'm sharing my experience, but that doesn't mean that you should do exactly what I did. You have to figure that out for yourself. That's the point of this video. I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook, I don't have TikTok. I make videos here on YouTube, but they show maybe 1% of my actual life or the life moments that I'm having. At some point I tried carrying a camera with me to document more of my life for you, but also that felt stressful and took me away from the present moment, so I stopped as well that. Because life feels way better when it's lived for yourself, not as something to be performed. The truth about achievement. After every milestone I was hitting, I was feeling more or less the same. I would hit a goal, celebrate it for a moment, and then immediately think, what is next? The feeling I was chasing never actually arrived, or it went away super quickly. And that forced me to ask myself, if nothing ever feels like enough, what exactly am I chasing? And then I just had this moment where I thought, well, maybe actually this is it. Maybe I have already made it. Maybe this is kind of as good at this as it gets. Sure, there are ups and downs, but maybe this is what living feels like. There will never be some grand, constant joy, but not the endless sadness either. Just this, what we are feeling right now. And it was a strange realization, perhaps tough to accept at first, but freeing once I did. And this isn't nihilism. I still think that life is very important and I still have ambitions, but they have shifted from external to internal. That's why peace and mental health, I guess, are so important to me. When I lose those, I notice myself falling back into the mindset of constantly executing and constantly striving for more. Now I have my own definition of success, and I try to see achievements as a game, something to make life fun and not something that defines my worth at all. And from the outside, I probably still seem like a pretty normal Western citizen, or at least a Finnish citizen, but the difference is internal. There are things I have to do like anyone else. I cannot escape taxes or death. But when I do have a choice, I do what makes sense to me. And while this feeling of freedom is totally worth it, living differently definitely comes with its own challenges. Part 4. The reality of living on your own terms. One of the biggest things I have had to face is the fear of failure and self-doubt. What if this is a mistake? What if things don't work out? There have been times when I questioned everything. Was I just making my life harder for no reason? Would I regret these choices in 10 years? But then I would look around and see how exhausted people were from doing everything right, and I knew I had to keep going. I have also experienced some questioning, of course, from others, though not too much. I'm privileged to be in a position where people generally respect my choices, but there's still that subtle, you should work more, or why don't you do things just normally? And when I hear it, I can tell that it often comes from a place that they had their own struggles with those same expectations. But despite all of this, I don't see this as some kind of higher or enlightened way of living. I don't want to call myself awake or different or special or anything like that. I actually dislike all these labels because they make me feel like I have to act a certain way, like I suddenly have everything figured out. I don't. I probably never will, but maybe that's the point. Maybe life isn't about getting somewhere. It's just about being here. And for the first time, that feels like enough for me. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one.